Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much for joining me here. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Happy Sunday to you and your family. We're obviously going to take another look here at Mana, help understand best practice, big picture. More importantly, kind of look at these Fibonacci retracement levels. Go ahead and probably adjust them and update them. And then obviously on top of that too, kind of look at some history as well and kind of recognize how this overextension to the upside might play out based on previous events. Because again, history has a tendency of repeating itself. We have three obvious white soldiers here and the strong likelihood of a red day tomorrow based on the simple fact that we've got some very, very strong momentum to the upside. Okay, so just keep that in mind. If you are new to the channel, not a financial advisor, I do love teaching people to trade. I hope you can, become a better trader, of course, with my trading academy communities and signal groups that I provide. Link in the description below if you want to register. Recommend registering before month end, just because we are adjusting the rates later in the month when we have that new website rolling out. We also want to recognize as well, we had some awesome profits here recently. Look at this, 1 month, 3 days, 160%. So I don't know if that's comfortable for you or not, and that's okay if it isn't, but to me, waiting a month to get a very large return like that is very feasible. Okay, also keep in mind too, we had 20 days, 95% from Bitcoin, and of course another 94% from 3 days as well. I love trading Bitcoin and a handful of other coins. Also, just keep in mind, these are the kind of trade signals that I send out, and my community is just killing it right now. I mean, Austin J, this guy's making a significant turnaround. Sonny's doing fantastic as well. I mean, look at all these trades, just beautiful. So again, thank you for mentioning this. I greatly appreciate what you say, and that I am making a positive impact for you, because that's what this is all about, right? We're all sticking together and growing towards a common goal. We're also using Bitget as the best exchange in the world. Simply put, $10,000 prize pool monthly for that guy there, and make sure if you can, you register with the link down below so you can be eligible for that, and you also get some USDT bonus for registering. You will need a VPN if you're in the States, keep that in mind, but you do get 3 months extra free with a 12-month plan. It's already pretty inexpensive. I've used ExpressVPN for years, and it's really cool to be partnered with them too now. So thank you, Express and Bitget, for just making my community a much better place. So here's the thing with Mana. It's very simple and straightforward what's going on. I'm very confident that we're going to see a pullback, but what we want to do before we even look at that, we want to go ahead and redraw out some Fibonacci retracement levels. And a common characteristic for Fibonacci retracement level is to draw from the most recent high to the most recent low, right? So you can kind of get that projection. Now keep in mind, these fibs are, dated, if you will, and they're not reversed, so that's kind of just a standard Fibonacci. What we want to do is take a look at standard ones here as well. Go ahead and pull this guy up and down. And we're going to use a larger time frame. The main reason why is because that gives us more definitive support and resistance levels. Okay, so the larger the time frame for Fibonacci retracement, the larger the actual strength in that level becomes. Okay, so as we can see, a previous support level is obviously a 0.236 level here on Fibonacci. So in that sense, we can kind of estimate that this will be much more reliable than a smaller time frame. Plus, it expands upwards here, so we can kind of get perspective on how much higher it could go if it continues to run, right? Like probably a better case scenario, we're looking at $1.50 for Mana in the next couple of weeks, okay? Now, I don't think it's going to happen, and the main reason why is because it's just one of those kind of situations where Mana is overextended completely. All right, so let's take a look at this here. What I mean by overextended, handful of reasons, of course. We've got TD sequential, first and foremost. We should have stopped here at this 9 where we've got this resistance level. We got a massive short squeeze pushing the price action up higher. We've got not only 2, but 3 days to follow, essentially pushing the price even further. So we should have had a pullback of a small amount and legged up on the next Fibonacci retracement level. Instead, the price keeps going higher. So we're literally 13, 14, maybe even 15 days in this continuation. That's a lot, okay? The RSI also reflects that as well. What are we at right now for RSI? 93, almost 93. I'm rounding up a little bit. So that overextension on the RSI tells us it's extremely overbought. What typically happens when something's overbought? It becomes oversold. The price is going to come back down inevitably. That's why I'm anticipating tomorrow is going to be a red day. So, just be prepared for something, some kind of correction tomorrow, or possibly even Tuesday, because tomorrow is a holiday and traditional markets aren't really truly going to be open. It's Martin Luther King Day here in the United States, so that's essentially something to pay attention to as well. Regardless, strong potential for the price to come back. And the reason why I feel that way too is we take a look here, just kind of scrolling out, big picture here for Mana. The last 2 times that Mana has been up over 90 on the RSI, in fact, it's only been 1 time, is right here at this point, which was on October 30th of 2021. The price action jumped up. Obviously, this is a significant jump, almost 300% in one day. But the following day was a red day here. okay? And there was 3 white soldiers there if you look at that pattern. So generally speaking, when the price comes up RSI plus 90, in any circumstance, which happens rarely, the one time it's done that before, it had a pretty massive correction the following day. From top to bottom, somewhere in the range of a 50% correction. Now, I'm not saying we're going to see a 50% correction here, but what I am anticipating is that the price comes back down to one of these 2 Fibonacci retracement levels and then potentially bounces from there. Okay. Now we're going to see if there's any volume in these areas, kind of see which might be stronger in the overall sense of support, but for lack of better terms here, we should experience some type of pullback. It may not be massive, but it will be something, okay? So there's going to be a correction regardless. If we look at the most recent time frame here too, we can see though that there is a decent amount of volume right in this range here. It's not like a tremendous amount, but if we kind of go right here in this area, we can see that we are accumulating some volume here. All right, that's good. We're building a base. But in order to build on an expansion like we saw right here, you need to have a firm amount of volume as a baseline. Okay, so again, that's how you build on it. So if mana can go sideways for a couple of days and kind of build more volume at this point, it may not retrace at all, right? Again, healthy continuations lead to healthy continuations. It's probably the best way to put it. It's kind of redundant, right? But if you have a strong volume, strong base of volume, you can build on that. And we're building that now, but it's still very overextended. All right, so just be ready for a pullback, but on the same accord, this is not terrible. If we, in fact, we look at the 4 hour, take a look at this here. We got the price action coming up and over, fairly consistent staircase. Went a little on the overextended side here, probably well outside of standard deviation. It contracted, pulled back down, bounced off this Fibonacci retracement level, came back up to try to hit 75 cents, got rejected right around the 72 cent range. So this is fairly healthy continuation in the overall sense of things. But the thing you really need to recognize is we're hitting 9s pretty consistently. Like we hit a 7 here, sideways. 9, sideways, another 9, mostly sideways, but up and down, and now we're up to a 1. So hypothetically, again, we've got another 24 to 48 hours of continuation to the upside or sideways from here. So it's not necessarily going to pull back immediately, but if it were to pull back soon, it would make sense. But once again, this initial run, this most recent 4 hours, was backed by a decent amount of consolidation at this area, right? It's this typical thing where you break through a resistance level here, come back up, retrace, bounce off that resistance level, previous resistance, turn support, and the price continues higher. So looking really good here for mana. 4 hour time frame looks pretty decent, and a standard bounce off of 70 on the RSI. Just keep in mind you can only maintain a price point above 70 on the RSI for so long, right? So the daily is screaming rejection. The 4 hours telling us that even though we have a MACD convergence here, we are still very much looking to pull back in the relative near future. But I wouldn't say we're going to see that today. It would make more sense to see a correction tomorrow. Okay, so I don't think we're going to see it right away. But to me personally, if I was in this position, just say it got in around 30 or 40 cents, I would have trimmed some of my position, probably likely back here. Again, I'm a little more conservative. I don't like to let things ride. I hate leaving money on the table, and it just doesn't make sense. I mean, that's how I've been successful for years now, is to actually take profits whenever I can. And yes, there's times where I'll take profits too early. It totally happens. Don't feel bad. There's no perfect trade. For the most part, you're going to find a trade that's going to be working out fairly well if you take profits at the right time. So set a goal before you take a trade of where you're going to want to go and get in and get out. Okay, that's a big start. All right, so anyways, 4 hour time frame looks fairly decent, albeit overextended. Still early into that extension, if you will, right? So this little push here is still fairly early. So let's go ahead and see what that looks like here. We are at a 9 on TD sequential, so let's go ahead and rewind just a little bit. So taking a look here back, first of all, are these healthy continuations? We hit a 9, nice little short squeeze, push up, reject off that level. Nice, once again, a secondary short squeeze, comes up to a 9, goes sideways. Then we legged up and we went up and down for a little while, down to a 9, up to a 9. So you're seeing consistent 9s on TD sequential for mana. So the probability of a pullback, at least to this level here, right at Fibonacci about 64 cents, would make sense. And the reason why, that's the most recent high. You see how it could not pass this plane for quite a while, roughly 2 trading days. If the price comes back down to bounce, that's a case in point where it should bounce off of that level. So if I'm going to kind of try to pay attention to this, I would just kind of maybe set an alert somewhere in the range of like 64 cents and see if it gives me a notification if it wants to continue bouncing at that level or if it wants to go down further. If we hold 64 cents, roughly 63 to 64 cents, then there should be a bouncing point from that level. Okay, but just know, overextended on the hourly, we're mildly overextended on the 4 hour, but extremely overextended on the daily. What that translates into is that this transitionary time frame could last for another 12 to 24 hours. So even though we might see a pullback here in the immediate future, it may not be super significant, and if it isn't, then the price will likely leg up from there. If we do see a correction that closes somewhere in this range here or lower, then there's a stronger chance we're going to see further downside. Okay, so I know that seems kind of cryptic, but generally speaking, there's no guarantees on this, right? The one thing we can assure ourselves with is that the overextension on the daily is the most profound. Again, the larger the time frame and the overextension, the more significant the pullback will be. Once again, I don't think we're going to see a 50% correction from mana, but I do think we're going to see somewhere in the range of, maybe 5 to 10, 5 to 20%, depending on the overall circumstance. So if we were to go with that rough estimate there, 5 to 10% puts us at the 64 cent mark, right? Perhaps even just a 20% correction, right around 60 cents. Again, no guarantees on that, but we're shaping up to do that here. Let's take a look at the cloud and kind of see where we're at here. First of all, conversion line's barely above the baseline, telling us we have some momentum that's gaining, but it's not significant. Lagging span is free and clear, so if you have a long position open, you'd want to keep that open until this intersects. And again, intersection would happen right here, which is essentially if the price were to come back down to that 60 cent mark, okay? So again, that's where it's tough to leave profits on the table, right? So to me, with this being overextended on the daily, why not have some kind of profits that you're going to take in the 70 cent mark and then buy the dip when it comes back down to 64? Those are the kind of things that I like to do personally. While it doesn't work out all the time, it oftentimes works out most of the time, right? So again, it's really just statistical probabilities here. At this point, we're statistically overextended, and the probability of it coming back down is greater. That's really what we're looking at. But once again, we got a nice amount of support here based on previous volume, as we've explained. We've got the cloud, we've got the moving averages here. A lot of reasons why this range at about 60 to 64 cents should hold. Okay, so the red day we're going to probably see tomorrow will likely be a correction down to the 64 cent range. That would make a lot more sense. Okay, so once again, to reiterate, a pullback makes sense, but how hard of a pullback? Probably not super significant. It would probably be a slow bleed out unless Bitcoin has a terrible day on Monday or Tuesday, right? Always got to factor that in, because keep in mind, Bitcoin has been on a tear as well. So take a look at Bitcoin, almost the same exact behavior, right? So once again, keep this in mind. If Bitcoin loses this support level at 20,000, we're absolutely going to see a correction to a lower price point for Mana. If Bitcoin goes sideways and up, we can expect a similar behavior for Mana with a likely consolidation at 64 cents. That's essentially what we're looking at here. So again, mostly good stuff here. I really don't see any real major downside. I would just be ready for a fourth day here that should be red. It's very common. Look up 3 white soldiers. It's a candlestick pattern I trade often, and Bitcoin actually has that. It's funny. I took a short yesterday with Bitcoin, and it went the opposite direction. Okay, 3 white soldiers is never a guarantee, but it's again a very strong likelihood it's going to happen, because you can get overextended for too long, and the pullback makes perfect sense. So I would just expect a fourth red day tomorrow. That's just kind of my anticipation. I hope that works out. And again, you want to let it ride. That's all well and good, but just know that RSI is extremely overextended. When we see an RSI at this rate, it has to calm down. At the very least, go sideways from here. I wouldn't expect another push upwards. If it does, it's too much. All right, anyways, I'm done talking in circles. Thanks again for hopefully learning something here today. I appreciate you joining me and look forward to working with you. If you want to become a better trader, cryptocash.tech is a site. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.